Hi guys and girls, it's the Jeep Doctor. Welcome to my YouTube page. Today we're going to show you how to replace the rear output shaft seal on a NP231 or an NP242 transfer case. The NP231 is what you find in most of your Wranglers, some of your Grand Cherokees, and most of your regular Cherokees. The 242 is similar, and it's what you find in Grand Cherokees and a few of the regular Cherokees. So what usually happens is this rear seal, which is hidden behind this what they call the oil slinger, will start leaking over time, just age, deterioration. Sometimes you have a bearing or a bushing that's worn out. So this is a later model NP231. Some of your earlier model NP231s, what you can find in a YJ Wrangler, will have a long tail shaft cone that comes all the way out to here. So I actually have one of those here in the shop. I'll show you that later on. But what your problem is right behind this metal plate is you've got the seal. This one's got some leakage going on. So what we're going to do is walk you through the process of taking this thing apart. So first things first, let's tackle the drive shaft. Okay, now on the drive shaft you're going to have four 8mm bolts that's going to be holding the straps that hold your U-joints in. So the best way to tackle these guys is with a long 8mm wrench like this one, or with a swivel socket, a small 1/4 inch swivel socket like this. I've got this on a 1/4 inch adapter, so we'll just zip these guys out. For some reason you can't break these guys loose. You might require a turn with a wrench here. Okay. So here you have your straps. These are what holds your joints in. Make sure you don't lose these guys because they are easily misplaced. Okay, at this point you just want to take a pry bar here, fit it between your U-joint and the drive shaft, and just give it a nice little pop. Okay, our cap came off, that's quite alright, that'll stick right back on. So this is the perfect time to replace a U-joint in your drive shaft, and I'm going to have a video showing you how to do that in the next series here. So once you pop that loose, you can simply just slide the drive shaft off the rear yoke. Lay that to the side, be careful with it, don't get it dirty, nasty, because everything has to function properly. So, okay, at this point you've got your compression sleeve. Now one thing I forgot to mention with the drive shaft is a lot of times if these things have never been off, you guys have a metal band here, maybe sometimes a zip tie if they have been off, so you just want to cut that loose. You're going to have something similar up here. So you're going to pull your compression boot off there. Then you have your oil slinger. Sometimes these guys will slide right off. Sometimes they are a pain. Sometimes you might have to get behind them and just tap them a little bit with a hammer. Be sure to be really careful. Try not to put a pry bar back here, because if you bend this thing, you can possibly also crack this housing back here, and then you've just basically ruined your transfer case. So just slide right off there. So that's what the inside of your oil slinger looks like there. Nothing too awesome. So then you have the oil slinger washer. So make sure you save that because you're going to want to put it back on. And at this point you have this spring clip. You guys can see there's a space there in between it. You need a special pair of pliers. Snap ring pliers will not work here. I mean, I've seen guys do it, but you'll end up cussing and fighting and crying by the time it's all said and done. So, special. Okay, and here is what I was talking about. These are lock ring pliers. These are made by SK. You can buy these in multiple different brands. I got mine on Amazon. I believe they were somewhere in the $30 range, but trust me guys, these things will save you some time. If you'll see on the Here they're kind of a knurled finish on them, and that's going to help you grab that lock ring. So what you want to do is get in that open space there, grab it, and you'll be spreading it, and you're just going to work your way off of this shaft here. And that's what the lock ring looks like. It's just split there, and it fits in a groove here on the back of the shaft. So make sure you save that, don't lose it. If you're doing any of this in your driveway, I've done work in a gravel driveway before, and you end up with a whole headache of missing parts. So, but just from looking at this seal, I don't see any kind of damage right off that would cause it to leak, but this thing has definitely got a leak going on. We've got residue on our muffler, we've got residue all underneath here, so we're going to go ahead and do a replacement on this guy. Okay, what you want to do at this point is get a small screwdriver or a small pry bar and try to wedge yourself between here. So what they do suggest is drilling a small, very small hole in here and using a slide hammer to yank this thing out. We're not going to do that here. I do have a slide hammer, but we're not going to go through all that mess. So sometimes you can get lucky and grab it with a pair of pliers and simply work it loose. That may not work here. It's always worth a shot. I'm using a pair of needle nose channel locks. Depends on how long these guys have been in here. And what I can do there is just bend it back just a tick. Now I've got a little small lip going. Got my snap-on pry bar here, a little small one. Bended it back a little bit. And let's see if we can pry it out. And you want to be careful not to damage your transfer case. So you can see got a little bit of fluid coming out there. That's always a good sign. There we go. We've worked ourselves loose. So don't plan on reusing this seal at all. That's just not going to happen. So up, and it's easy to see what our problem was. Is we've got a spring, the inner spring is right here on the inside of the shaft. So if I can get this guy off, it's fighting me just a little bit. What's supposed to happen here is this spring supposed to be on the inside of this lip here, the lip that is actually missing. Let me show you what this is comparison for. See, we've got this lip here that's missing on this seal here. So what we're probably going to be starting to look for is a worn out bushing, because this shaft is obviously sheared off the inner seal here. So we had fluid just leaking right past this right here. So, but that's where we'll take it from here. So, well, we got quite a bit of movement going on there. Wouldn't say it's too abnormal. That's a little excessive. Yeah. But I don't know if it'd be enough to tear that seal off, but either way, that's where we stand now. So what you want to do is you want to find your underlying cause. Maybe it was just a bad seal, and you can just replace your seal. So okay, at this point we've got our housing stripped down. So what we're going to do at this point is start replacing the pieces we've took off. So we've got our new output shaft seal. But the thing about this is, guys and girls, you want to make sure you lube this thing up really good. Chrysler recommends petroleum jelly, gold grease, something to that effect. And they actually, Chrysler recommends a shaft seal protector, which would go over this and actually give this a more smooth surface. None of us have one of those, realistically, unless you work at a Chrysler dealer. And if you work at a Chrysler dealer, I'm not quite sure why you're watching my video. So, but anyway, so we're gonna lube this thing up really good with some gold grease. Petroleum jelly available at any Rite Aid or anywhere like that will work just fine. That's actually one of the things Chrysler recommends. So, but just get this thing nice and lubed up. Not gonna hurt anything here. A little bit goes a long way, but just make sure that you have everything nice and lubricated. I've actually heard of some guys actually using transmission fluid to lube everything up. That's not a bad idea. I don't know how effective it is overall, but you know, just want to make sure you've got this thing nice and lubed up. Now take your seal, give it a nice few lubes here. Make sure you got this thing where it's going to slide so easy. And also this is going to prevent dry start when you first start driving this thing. What's probably happened to our last one actually is the seal was dry from sitting around, being parked, and when it first took off, the seal just ripped because the shaft was dry. And so you just want to make sure you get it started on there nice and slow. Make sure you've got plenty of lubrication. So you get it seated down on there, and you can sometimes you can find a seal driver at your local Advance or AutoZone. They might have one to rent for you, but if you want to make your own, what we've got here is like a 2 1/4 inch piping with some masking tape on it. So this will fit down right on there perfectly, and what you want to do is get it down to where it's sitting in this area right here. So, and I just put the masking tape on there just for a little added protection. So, but PVC pipe, anything like that will work. So, but you just start tapping it down on there a little evenly all the way around. And feel around the edge, make sure you don't have a lip. If you do, just give it a few more taps. Go around the whole outside here. I'm just using a dead blow hammer. I wouldn't recommend a hard hammer like a household hammer, but if you got to use what you got to use for like a trail repair or whatever, you got to do what you got to do. So, but okay, so we've still got our seal kind of lubed up here. And the next thing to go on is another lock ring. So you've got a groove here that should be visible when the seal is completely seated. You take your lock ring, start it on here. Get it snapped down, and what that lock ring does is it keeps this oil slinger washer from rubbing the seal. Basically stops that guy right there. So, okay. And then you want to put your oil slinger back on. Now the thing about these things is really you should go buy a new one. So yours may fit right back on there, but it's one of those things that I recommend buying a brand new one. I think they're for like $8 at your local Chrysler dealer. Probably not going to find what Advance AutoZone, so on and so forth. So just for illustration purposes, we're going to go ahead and put this guy back on here, just because to show you how to finish this project. Okay. So then after you get your oil slinger on, you're going to put your compression boot on, and this goes with the smaller part towards your oil slinger and your bigger part towards the drive shaft. And then you just take your drive shaft and slide it back in. Okay, now we're going to put your strap bolts and your straps back on. I recommend a little dab of thread locker on these, blue thread locker, just to, you know, just a little safety conscious there. So, but you get these things finger started as usual. I'll zip these guys down with my impact. Okay. And these drive shaft nuts should be torqued to 170 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. So